This tutorial is sponsored by the 3D Coloring Book, a project specifically designed to help empower artists who are struggling with texturing in Substance Painter and to help show you that anyone can create beautiful pieces of art with just a little bit of practice and guidance. To instantly gain access to hundreds of pre-made professional level models and hours of high quality tutorials, click the link in the description and begin your journey today.
Hi everyone, my name is Oleaf and today I'm gonna share with you my hand-painted texture and pipeline from start to finish on example of my recent project, this little cozy house. I really like this texturing technique, the hand-painted one, because it allows you to make everything using only diffuse map and develop artistic skills even if you're not painting to the illustration or concept art or whatever. So let's see how I'm doing it. For modeling I was using Maya mostly and 3ds Max for some tweaks. At this stage things are pretty common. Make the shape, unwrap the UV map, pack this together, use textile density. Here I packed my UVs into sets, house itself and its parts, and ground with rocks and foliage. If you have a lot of objects with opacity, like the leaves I have here from tree, it's better to keep them in one UV set, or if you have them in UV with other objects, make them fit in one area on the UV together, so it will be easier for you to work with this texture in Photoshop later without messing the opacity channel. So when I started to model it, I haven't really know how I want my foliage to look like, so on the texture editor I left a bunch of place for the leaves and all the transparent stuff that I have on my model here. So once we have all the things packed together, once we decided where all the materials will be and assign them, we can move on the texturing stage. For the texturing I'm using Substance Painter for blocking, 3D Code for painting itself, and Photoshop. I don't really like to start with blank model or only with ambient occlusion on it, or ambient occlusion to grayscale and gradient maps. It's a good pipeline, but I don't really like it. So here's where Substance Painter really handy for me. First of all, we need to bake our maps. If you don't have sculpted high poly, just bake all maps from low poly here. Set the desirable resolution. It's always better work in high resolution. You can make it lower later if needed. So I'm setting here 2K and baking the maps. You can also play around with this parameter, use low poly mesh as high poly mesh. Sometimes it gives better results. So hitting the bake button and wait the things bake. So in most of this kind of baking from low poly you can have different artifacts, like some places here, and it can be a little noisy, especially on ambient occlusion. It's okay, we don't really care about that much because we'll overpaint it anyway. When we have all of our mobs baked, this is where the magic starts. Painter have a huge tool set to speed up the base colors and gradient blocking, and what I really like is dynamic masking, like in Photoshop but better and in 3D. Though the first thing that we need for color blocking is color palette. I had a concept for this house, but if you don't have one, you can make an overpaint of the screenshot of your model in Photoshop or pick references to gather colors from them. Once we know where each materials will be on our model, we can start to make folders for them. Name your folders properly. It will help you a lot when you will be texturing it. You can also assign a color from the folder, so your eye will have a point to hook up when you will be searching for layers. So here in created folder, I'm adding the black mask here. And I'm using polygon fill tool to fill the areas which I wanted to be in this material. So to see the mask, if you don't have any fill layer in folder yet, you can press the C button on a keyboard. It will show you channels. So we are here in mask, and we can use the polygon fill to actually mask the white areas. So once we masked all our areas in every folder, it's time to make it color. So this is, for example, a gold material, so I'm creating the fill layer with this color and continue it for every material that I have here. So here's our model separated on the different materials and colors. Looks pretty flat. So to give my model volume, I will use ambient occlusion and gradients. Here I have pre-made smart material for ambient occlusion, which is basically just a mask generator with where I put my maps. But to create ambient occlusion, you can also use this simple trick. So create a fill layer, place a mask on it. First, I don't care about color right now because we will tweak it. So add in the black mask, fill, and place here our ambient occlusion layer. So to make this look like actually ambient occlusion, place here levels and invert. Now we just need to make fill layer desirable color and we will have ambient occlusion. You can also tweak it by levels to make it darker or to make it sharper, just whatever you want to. So as you can see, I have a bunch of layers here, which is basically just fill layer with black mask and with added gradient generator to it. So I just make gradients from bottom to top, and I place the paint layer to erase all areas that I don't need. Like, I can't do with one single layer all these separated areas. So once I've made basic gradients, I also wanted to make the model lighted from one side and go to the shadow from another one. So I'm making an overlay layers here, and using the same polygon fill tools, I'm just masking areas on the side, these edges, so it looks darker now. Like, we're creating the illusion of light when we don't have it actually. I also created a little colored gradient here. As you can see on my concept, it's a little bit of darker area here, so I made it here too, using the same gradient. And I also marked the inner parts that will be the way darker, like this, using masking. So as we can see on the concept, we have the roof tiles here. At first I wanted to make it from generators at Substance Painter here, but I decided that it will be way more easier to paint it by hand using symmetry. So here on the roof I have the same technique I used for the gold. I have fill layer, I have the gradient on the top that will lighten up the top of the roof, and I have ambient occlusion here. So a little gradient also to make it more lighter, and another one for the roof that are smaller. So at first I painted the lines of the roof itself, and as we can see here, the edges lighter. So what I did, I just copied this layer, placed on the bottom, changed its color. On the lighter one, we can see it's already marks our layers, our edges lighter. Then I added here filter, which names bevel. So let me show you how it works. So it will spread our mask to make the edges. This is why I really like the dynamic masking in Substance. You can play how you want to, you can change the color of the edges how you like, and yeah, that's pretty easy and quick. So I played with masks here, using the same technique how I was adding the darker areas here. I just added light to make the top of the gold looks lighter. I was using the masks to make these stripes because it will be like pretty hard for me to paint it in 3D code, so I'm trying to make the blocking as much further as I can, so it will be way more easier for me to just paint. I have all information here that I need. I have the light, I have shadows, I have gradients. So now I think we can move to the 3D code. So once we imported our model in 3D code, I'm just paste here my textures that I made for house, and this is the really strong base for further painting. So for 3D code I have a few tricks. I'm using pretty same techniques which I'm comfortable with, and yes, when it comes to painting, I paint all things almost in one layer. That's why the blockout stage is really important for me. I can just relax and start to play around with colors. Not using a big pool of tools inside code, it's just simple brushes and eraser, but the interesting things about brushes in 3D code, they have a few different modes. No matter which alpha you will pick, you can always make your brush painting depending on pen pressure, or make it various size or not. Just try this option here yourself. Oh, this mode is ignoring all your pen pressure and just makes things and just makes your brush acts like flat. So here it is. I'm always using this one. It's when the pen pressure varies the size and the opacity of the stroke. To quickly switch between these modes, you can press E on the keyboard, and under your cursor is all of these options will appear. Here in the brush mode panel you can also find a really good one. It's a polygon fill, just like in Substance Painter. I really like to use it for metal highlights on sharp edges, just like this. Let me create my color, maybe yellow. Then I'm picking polygon fill tools, and it will fill the polygon itself, just like this. So I can simply erase. Oh, eraser works also for the polygon fill tool. And let's say erase what I don't need to, make the slighter edges like this. Or we can use polygon fill tool on the edges, just like this, and just make this metal highlight. This is the most common way I'm using this tool. So here I have my full model painted. You can watch the recordings on my YouTube channel. To make opacity here, I just erased the layer 0. Layer 0 in 3D code, it's fill that fill in your model, and if you just delete it or erase it, your model become transparent fully. So I just painted rocks first, and then I erased the parts of the plane that I don't need it here. I had a lot of questions about how I painted the rocks and the grass. It's kind of pretty intuitive process. First I just made spots, just like this, like different color spots. And then I'm just picking the darker color. I'm very commonly using here the reference image, just like this, and picking the color from concept. It's okay to pick the colors. So I made different spots, like here and here, and what I wanted, it just to make it look less flat, just simply cut the shape, like the top part will look lighter and the sides will look the way darker. So just like this. Like you can zoom out and mark the areas that you want it to look darker, and then you just move on the hue panel to pick up maybe a reddish tone and make a red spots here, then pick the lighter one. So the technique I'm using is explained really good in the Scenics design video named Paint Like a Sculptor. I really recommend you to check this out if you haven't yet. It's definitely worth your time. So I'm cutting and smoothing the areas, and I really like to add a little small highlights here. So you can not shy and just paint your rock form just like this. You can mark the lighter areas, and this sharp line that we made here to paint the rock, we can just paint the lighter color on top, and of course a little highlight on top. So we have here one side, here other side, but the rock is actually on the flat surface, and this trick makes it look like it's have a volume, like it's in 3D actually. So I painted all the rocks using this technique, and the grass is just simply brush strokes. So always keep in mind that grass have depths. It not only just like hair like this, it should have darker areas under it to show the volume. Like this. We can also make this hue shift into bluish one. It will give us where is the color. And on the top of the darker areas, I'm gonna place the lighter one. Something like this. You can also make it roll in different direction. Add a little highlights. So we have the grass now. While I'm rotating the model, you can see a little cross section here when I'm pressing the Alt. It's camera rotation pivot point, and the good thing is you can change it if you have a large model or you have a big scene that can be spread around. And for better navigation in 3D code, you can change this pivot point of the camera. Simply press F on the surface of your model where you need it to be, and as you can see, this little cross section is now sticked to the surface of the model. So if I needed to rotate around this point, I'm gonna place pivot here. If I need to work somewhere here, I'm placing the pivot point on the F button, and now it's here. So it's a huge time saver when you're working on something more voluminous. And I think this is it. Thank you for watching my breakdown. Leave a comment if you have any questions. Feel free to ask me anything on my station or in Stylized Station Discord. I'm hanging on there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my hand painted texture pipeline. And yeah, bye!